welcome back. DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast. And it's quite a good week, because I reckon all the teams must have been listening to our podcast last week and found out we'd completely run out of ideas because they all decided to make every driver announcement this week. So, thank you IndyCar teams, you've made our lives a lot easier this week with 3 announcements to go over, which is quite a lot. So, I guess the best way is to crack straight on into it. I think the first announcement actually came out before the episode did, or it was on the day of the episode, which was a particularly random one. Pietro Fittipaldi is going to be racing the number 30 for Rahal Lanigan. We expected Juri Vips to be there, but it's just came out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, it's been a busy week for us, to be quite honest. I didn't quite expect to be sitting on my laptop quite so often.
We did not expect this episode to be coming up this time last week.
No, like I didn't expect to be typing up so much over the week. But hey ho, we all got caught out a little bit on. I don't know. I think it was it Monday? I think it was Monday.
It was Monday.
News.
Yeah, it was Monday. So it's before this last week's episode came out.
Yeah. So that was a little bit unfortunate, but well, unfortunate. Not unfortunate for this week's episode, but. Yeah, cracking into the Fittipaldi news, it did come as a surprise, really. It was a name that hadn't really been mentioned amid, let's be frank, a whole host of names that have been linked to seats. He did 6 races in the first season with Dale Coyne, 3 further races with Coyne in a sort of oval package as part of Grosjean's Road and Street Course programme. His first season was a little bit truncated, sort of midway through. He would have run a lot more races, but he broke both of his legs in a crash at Spa in the World Endurance Championship, where he is a race winner. So he's a talented driver, clearly. He's 27 years old now. He isn't young. He's definitely not as young as he was when he was first in IndyCar. He's got a best finish of 9th in Portland in that first season. I think one highlight was he qualified 13th for the 500 in 2021. So... You know, he's got that oval pedigree that RLL are probably after, because at the end of the day, they look like they've cracked road courses. They look like they're cracking street courses. It's ovals where they're struggling, but Fittipaldi has experience in IndyCar. You know, he was picked for that oval package with Coyne in 21. He has race winning experience of ovals outside of IndyCar as well. So he's clearly fancied there, and yeah, maybe he is someone the team see as giving them the most viable chance of being able to fire on all cylinders again. It's a multi-year deal, so there's clearly faith in him across the long run. He said that he's built a relationship with Bobby Rahal over time, so maybe with that considered, it isn't quite as out of the blue as we may have thought. You know, the Fittipaldi name and Pietro's family, it's a big name in IndyCar. His grandfather Emerson won 2 500s and a championship. Christian Fittipaldi was also a race winner. His uncle Max Pappas was a race winner for Team Rahal.
And the steward.
Yep. So that's a complicating factor. I think they just said he isn't going to be making any calls involving Pietro, I think.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Pietro's character. I mean, he's spoken incredibly well since this, how... You know, this was his dream to get back into IndyCar and to get into IndyCar full time. He's worked hard. He's shown persistence to get this opportunity. And yeah, after a successful junior career, race runner in the World Endurance Championship, he, as I said, is clearly really talented. And this is his chance.
Yeah, and I think he'll do well. Fittipaldi's very liked, and I'm sure we'll come on to this. He does bring quite a big fan base, similarly to another South American. And it was left field, but I think he's a nice signing. I think we'll get onto it in a minute, but Juri Vips may feel a bit hard done by, but Fittipaldi, as you said, does have a solid experience. He raced in lower league NASCAR years and years ago, and he was pretty successful in it, as you said. And he's a good driver. You know, we'll get this in a minute as well, but he's done a bit of everything. He is a lot of experience in a particular scene, but he's well rounded, and it is a left field shout, but I think RLL can afford that kind of move, and I'm excited to see what he does. I've been a big fan of Fittipaldi for a long time, and I'm excited to see how he does do.
Going back, like, he hasn't been mentioned at all. It's like there's other drivers who you would have thought would have got this seat, so it's kind of it is kind of out of the blue, but he has that experience, like you've been saying. And I mean, if he can drive, then that's all that really matters, as long as he can kind of get them points and kind of just make the team kind of better and kind of achieve better than they did this year.
Yeah, I think you said there's other drivers, who are linked, so it's probably an apt time to just touch on Vips, really, because I think we were kind of all expecting it would be him. I don't think there were any other drivers really on our radar for RLL. He did the essentially trial runs with them in the final 2 races. Portland was difficult. He hadn't been in a car all year. Then qualified 7th. He was dropped down into the mid-pack with an engine penalty, which ultimately led to the contact, which meant he had no real meaningful running. But I think one thing that has been mentioned is it could be a case of funding or sponsorship. Fittipaldi, at the end of the day, he is someone that brings backing. That is an appeal with him, sort of, as well as this oval experience. So, as well as being a driver who is clearly a reliable pair of hands, at least from what we've seen in the short time in IndyCar as well as elsewhere, he does bring that sort of financial backing to the team. Would Vips be able to bring that around? Maybe not. And I think the oval thing is significant because they want to start firing on all cylinders, and you're not exactly going to rely on a rookie who's never driven on an oval before to help turn that around. But yeah, the intention does seem, the team are a big fan of Vips, and the intention does seem that they will, target potentially running a race or 2 with him in a 4th car this year. The desire from the team is to run a 4th car with Vips in mind. I think Bobby Rahal spoke about the fact that they have 4 chargers. It's not about having three drivers. Essentially, Vips is very much still part of the team, whether he goes out into sports cars as an option this year. He was with the Rahal LMP2 team at Road Atlanta recently. I personally think Vips did a good enough job, and I think Bobby Rahal does as well in those trial runs to warrant getting a seat. And yeah, it's a shame things haven't worked out, but I guess that's the harsh way of motorsport. But it's clear that both parties do want to make something happen. I think Rahal as a team have kind of put a lot of effort into Juri's education after the incident, obviously, that saw him drop from the Red Bull Junior team. But yeah, I do feel sorry for him that he doesn't have a seat this year. But I think Bobby Rahal really, really does rate him and sees him as someone who, in his own words, can fight at the front of an IndyCar field someday.
It is harsh because Vips, let's be honest, he did have a good run out. He was pretty strong, and obviously I think funding probably is the main issue here. But I think we've probably seen with some capacity, maybe. Well, the rumour was already they're going to run a 4th car in the Indianapolis 500. Probably Takuma Sato is going to be taking it. But I would like to see Vips get a run out because he's very deserving of one. And although he's not one for next year, as we've mentioned, Rahal are keeping him on the books for a potential option in a couple of years' time or the end of the season. So it's a good call. Pietro Fittipaldi, just back to him very quickly. His racing resume is absolutely unbelievable because I think he must have raced in every single type of car on Earth. You ready for this? Driven NASCAR, driven a Formula 4 car, a Formula 3 car, World Series Renaults, which are like F1.5 sort of thing, an IndyCar, a Super Formula, a DTM car, which is obviously a touring car, a stock car, I should say. No, GT car. I'm going nuts. A Formula 1 car. It's done Formula 1 races. And then P2s. Stock car Brazils, which are obviously stock cars. And I think he's doing a hypercar test soon as well. So this guy has driven pretty much everything there is to drive. He's competed in probably every single high-level motorsport series there is. But he doesn't really ever seem to get a full-time seat somewhere, which is rather bizarre. I think all his IndyCar appearances previously were obviously in a split program, or he obviously had incidents, obviously like he did in WEC, or he was the replacement driver like he was for Grosjean, again ironically in Formula 1. He just seems to have raced everything, which is just really interesting, very diverse. But I think it's good for him. He's finally actually got a future locked in the multi-year deal because if you look at his record, it's something he's actually really struggled with previously.
Yeah, I think my gauge is that this is the thing he's been after. I think a full-time IndyCar seat has been his sort of goal, because F1 realistically was never going to really work out for him. There wasn't an opening there as much as he has been on Haas's books for, I think, 5 seasons now, including this year. Not sure whether that will continue, possibly in a Pillow Award type thing. I think that's what he's targeting. But yeah, that sort of adaptability to have driven so many things and kind of had success in a lot of different areas. I think that, it should benefit him, really.
Yeah, no, I
See
think
why
it should.
wouldn't benefit him, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, if you've got all the knowledge of all the other cars, then surely it can be kind of put to use. And if you can adapt to all the other cars as well, then you can adapt to this car just as well.
Yeah. Good. Well, that's also good. Interesting signing. I think he'll do well. I think he might take a while to get up to speed, particularly against Lundgaard. It was left field, but I'm happy to see Pietro Fittipaldi back in IndyCar.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think Bobby Rahal sees this as a lineup that can really, start getting the 3 cars that they do have completely firing. I think before switching to 4 cars, which I think he said that they're not making as much progress on that as they'd like, he is conscious that they need to do it at the right time and essentially just do it right, because you don't want to switch to 4 cars while you're still having, there were times last season where RLL were almost perceived to be in a bit of turmoil. There was quite a lot of internal, I think there were quite a few changes going on, and yeah, they just need to get 3 strong cars before they can consider a 4th. And I think another bit of news to touch on from them is obviously Graham Rahal. I think it seems a new deal for him is pretty much a formality at this stage.
Yeah, that'll be a new podcast episode. So don't all come at once again. We need content.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yes, that is Rahal done. Next announcement was on Wednesday, I believe, and this one was a bit more predictable, which was Christian Rasmussen was stepping up to Ed Carpenter Racing the 20. What wasn't as expected was he'd be ride sharing with Ed Carpenter. There we are, that's the story. Rasmussen is going to be doing the road and street as well as the Indy 500 in a 3rd entry, whilst Carpenter will be doing all the ovals in the 20. Looks like it's going to be the only split program for next year. Rasmussen is obviously the Indy Next champion, and a much deserved call up to IndyCar for Christian Rasmussen.
Yeah, it's good to see, and he spoke a lot about this, that the ladder system is working, and it kind of continues this ethos that Ed Carpenter Racing have of, obviously they've taken Daly on board, and they took Ryan Hunter-Reay for part of last year, but they have this ethos of really kind of nurturing young talent. They're going to be a lineup of 2 23-year-olds next year, or they're both 23 at the moment at least. So yeah, it's a move that, I think I quite like it. I think a lot of people, will be happy to see Rasmussen move up, not have a year out like Lundqvist was, for the most part, forced to do after his championship. That's now a championship at every single level for Rasmussen, so it would have felt really harsh for him to not complete that step, once the road to Indy is all done with. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. I think it's a shame that he won't be doing the full season, but at the end of the day, Marcus Armstrong did a good job at kind of just settling into a groove, doing the road and street courses last year, and obviously Rasmussen still gets the 500. And I think for ECR, this is kind of, obviously we'll come on to the Carpenter part, but this is kind of just to what they see as being the best way to, almost similar to Rahal, just getting themselves firing again, because it wasn't a great season for ECR last time out. It was very tumultuous, I think you'd say.
Yeah, I mean, we were critical of Ryan Hunter-Reay coming in because it felt like you needed a Lundqvist, and although Lundqvist has gone elsewhere, Rasmussen's sort of a nice fit into that. He was pretty dominant in his Indy next season, a bit like Lundqvist, and he kind of brings that youth and enthusiasm I think they need. VK really benefited from the arrival of Hunter-Reay, I do think. But now VK's now got that experience, he is going to become a team leader next to Rasmussen, which is going to be quite significant for VK, and I think that's going to be a good move for him as well. And we noticed the form picked up, and similar to Rahal, as you said, they're going through a transitional phase at Carpenter, and I think downscaling, obviously we'll touch more on it in a minute, but downscaling probably was the right move, all things considered. It's really, really deserved Rasmussen. I'm glad he is running the 500 because we see many rookies don't get to run the 500, but I'm so glad he is because he's so deserving of it. So, I'm very excited. I think we also need to touch on the fact that Christian Rasmussen was previously sponsored by DIVEBOMB Motorsport magazine. There we are. Fun fact for you. Unfortunately, it wasn't last year, but 2022. He was sponsored by DIVEBOMB, so we sort of made it. So well done, Christian. You're representing DIVEBOMB very, very well.
Yeah, we've been following closely, and we will definitely continue to.
He will be a podcast favourite, so making you all aware now for the whole next season, Rasmussen is becoming a podcast favourite. I mean, how could he not be? DIVEBOMB legend, Christian Rasmussen. So there we are. We'll try and get him on. We'll try and get him on because
we'll do our best.
Of the DIVEBOMB link.
But it was ultimately Rasmussen over Oliver Askew because I think everyone would have liked to have seen Askew back. It didn't go as it should have gone really last time. He was obviously marred by concussion in that season with Aaron McLaren. He's a super talented driver. He was again massively successful at junior level, and I think he got a podium in his 5th ever race at Iowa. But yeah, it's sad to see him, continually out of a seat because it feels like it's not really through his own accord that his IndyCar career never kind of took off.
I mean, he had a very tough challenge against Pato O'Ward in his rookie season, who had obviously proved himself quite strongly, and then obviously Rosing Bristol that was in the market, and Aaron McLaren went for him, and then just never quite got that opportunity. Which I think he obviously went to Formula E, and that didn't entirely work out as well as he wished. And I think it's harsh on Askew. There were rumours about him ride sharing, which again we'll touch on, but it is a shame. So I do want to see him back. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm really glad Rasmussen's got a seat, but at the same time, I did really want to see Askew back as well. I hope we will see him back, but he's going to be 5 years out of it by the next time the driver market comes up. And is anyone going to want someone like that? Probably not.
Yeah, in the press conference, the evening, or probably in the US time, the afternoon after the announcement, Ed Carpenter had this to say about why Rasmussen was ultimately chosen over Askew. For Ed, why was it that you ultimately picked Christian over Oliver Askew? Was that based on the test alone, or were there other factors involved in that?
I mean, there's never just one single thing. Christian certainly did a good job at the test, but so did Oliver. I spoke with him after we made the decision, and it's one of my least favorite parts about this job and business is, on one hand you're making one driver extremely happy to give him an opportunity, and you're also, crushing another guy. So never just one thing, but we just felt strongly as a group that Christian was the right choice for the team, and that's the direction we went.
So obviously the second part of the announcement is going to be ride sharing with Carpenter. Carpenter ran in the sort of the bonus car last year. We were quite critical of him, and now he's kind of got some work to do to get into the leader circle. Did that car get into the leader circle last year? I think it did.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it got a bit confused.
It just.
Yeah, because Hunter Ray finished 10th, didn't he?
In Laguna. Yeah, so he just scraped into the leader circle, but they probably will have a bit of a job of that this year because obviously there is going to be an extra car on the grid potentially. So it's going to be a challenge. So Ed's going to have to pick up the results because let's be honest, he was quite poor last year. A best finish of 13th in Texas, and then after that it was 23rd. Actually, crashed out the Indy 500. So it's going to have to do a bit more work this year, is Ed?
Yeah, that extra entry's always just felt a little bit weird. It's kind of just felt like it's there for the sake of Ed getting out and driving, really. He's had an over-only program for the last 10 years of his 21-year IndyCar career, so this is kind of what he's been used to for pretty much half of his career, and he'll continue that, and he'll get to, I think, exactly 50%. I'm not sure whether actually maybe did some other oval only years before that, this sort of 10-11 year period. But yeah, he will have to up his game, because at the end of the day, this year it's going to matter for the leaders' circle rather than kind of in the 33 car last year. It was just go out and get results. It didn't really. That car was never going to get into the leaders' circle off 5 races. So yeah, the pressure's kind of on Ed this year to actually pull some results together. Really, will he? I mean, he does need to improve on last year's performances for sure. It was messy. There were glimpses, but at the same time, he was a little bit off the pace. But I think the rationale behind this makes a lot of sense, because it's, at the end of the day, they ended up dropping a driver last year because they felt like they were lacking performance. Nothing was really aligning inside the team, and I think it is important that they just narrow their focus down to this 2-car operation without the added distraction of that additional car in some of the races. Yes, obviously ovals are kind of their strong point in many ways. However, they're not like a massive team. So if they just get all of their personnel focused on the 2 cars rather than all of a sudden, occasionally having to look, we've got the 3rd car now. Obviously that's the case for the 500, but they can afford to do it for the 500 because they are year on year so strong there. But it's clear they weren't happy with how they performed last year last season. But yeah, I understand the rationale behind it, and Ed is putting a faith in himself here that he can pull things together.
Yeah, and I think it is a bold move. I think Rasmussen will do enough to comfortably get that car in leader circle, and Ed's obviously there to get the points. I do hope this isn't Rasmussen doing Rowan Street for the next 4 or 5 years, because I wouldn't want that to happen, because he's a much better driver than that. And he proved it in ovals last year to Rasmussen. He won in Gateway, I believe, and he won in Iowa as well. So he won on both the ovals in Indy Next last year. He won at Lucas Oil Raceway in 2021 and in 2020. So he's no slouch of an oval driver. So I really do hope we do see Rasmussen on the ovals in the future. But obviously, Ed is the oval expert as such, but he will need to pick up his performances a bit. I kind of understand last year, it doesn't really matter, but now the pressure is going to be a bit on. But maybe if they are downscaling, that will help them a bit more.
So one thing I'd like to add is just like with Fittipaldi, I think the intention, although not completely confirmed yet, and Ed wasn't quite as explicit as Bobby Rahal was, but the intention is for this to be a multi-year deal, and the intention is as well that over time the plan is for Rasmussen to transition to a full schedule. So I think it's unlikely for this year, Carpenter said, just for the fact that they do really want to focus on getting the 2 cars really working properly and a bit more competitive than they were throughout 2023. He was asked whether he would be comfortable with Rasmussen running in another team's car on ovals, which he said is highly unlikely to happen.
Yeah.
And
Daly used to do it.
Yeah, but maybe if the situation presents itself, he said that they would consider adding that extra program. But I think full focus is on just getting the 2 cars really nailed this season before thinking of reverting back to what they did last year.
I think it's just trying to focus on trying not to barely scrape into that winner circle and trying just to get more comfortably in it, I think, because like you said, they didn't do that well last season, and I don't know, just a little bit of focus on the 2 cars will hopefully push them further up so they don't have to worry as much.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I'm slightly disappointed about is he won't be the Rookie of the Year battle, because obviously we've got Lundqvist, Simpson, Rasmussen, and Blomqvist. I think he would have been in the mix, to be fair. I think we all agree maybe Lundqvist will probably is comfortable favourite as things stand.
Probably.
Yeah, absolutely, I would say.
But yeah, it's a bit of a shame, because I think Rasmussen might have given him a run for his money. But these things happen. There's always the Indy 500 as well. Got the extra name of Carl Larson, I think might be a strong challenger. But Rasmussen could give it quite a good go at the Indy 500. They've been a strong package there, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Rasmussen, do we think there's anywhere else that could have been a better option for him, or do we think this is the best sort of place he could have ended up? Really, I think.
Realistically, it's not really. I wouldn't say any better.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've seen what VK at the end of the day produced. He's got a win with the team at the end of the
Yeah.
day. So
Multiple
we've seen.
goals.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen what is possible as a young driver going to Ed Carpenter Racing, and here is what Rasmussen said when asked by DIVEBOMB whether it was always going to be ECR. First of all, for Christian, was it ever in doubt that you would have a seat this year? And if it didn't work out with ECR, were there other options for you?
You never know. You never know what's going to happen. I got the opportunity with Ed early on, and I thought that would be a great fit for me. So we were pursuing that, before anything else. And it seemed like seats were filling up super, super quick as well. You know how, silly season works in IndyCar. But I had this opportunity early on and thought it would be a great fit for me, and pursued that and did the test, and it just kind of worked out from there.
Announcement number 3 came on Thursday. And I don't know, this one was sort of a surprise, but it wasn't totally surprising. It came as a surprise, but we saw it coming, but quietly behind the scenes. Like, Callum Ilott will leave Hunkos. It's a big shame, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I think it's probably linked to the inter-team issues, because the Ilott said in Laguna Seca was 99.9% sure he'll be staying before it all kicked off, and then him and the team have decided to mutually part ways, which is a huge shame.
I was going to say it's a huge shame, but we kind of we touched upon this last episode that we kind of saw it coming a little bit, because it's just very odd when you announce one driver but not the other. So it was very sad to kind of see it, but it wasn't surprising at the same time. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when the announcement came, I think it caught us all a little bit off guard. Again, like we said, it isn't necessarily a surprise. I think at the end of the day, it's all speculation. Like, we don't know that it's because of the inter-team issues, but you can kind of put 2 and 2 together and figure out that that's probably the case. But it's a huge shame. Like, Ilott is clearly one of the series' great young talents. He's a budding champion, and it's kind of as surprising as it may not be. It is kind of unsurprising given how things unfolded and the toxicity towards him, and almost the fuel added to the fire by the team, failing to condemn all of the abuse that Ilott was getting, and putting out a delayed statement, and in the interim posting a video thanking the fans for their support through the season. Ricardo Hunkos not really taking the blame off him for the incident at Laguna, which was not Ilott's fault. Canapino, I think, as far as I remember, went in deep, and that was what sort of sent his front wing ajar and dropped him down the order. But yeah, it's unthinkable that he faces not having a seat. Really, it's just, yeah, I feel for him, because he had a contract for next year, and we're now at a stage where seats are filling up quite quickly. And ultimately, if we are right in our assumption that this is something to do with the inter-team issues and Ilott essentially not feeling valued, which does seem to be the case, it seems like it has become Canapino's team, despite Ilott being the guy who really built this team up in many ways. Their first full-time season laid the foundations for them to ultimately expand to 2 cars for 2023. And yeah, it never felt like he got the treatment he deserved in the latter end of 2023, particularly. But I just feel really bad for him, because at the end of the day, he's got a contract. He looks like he's heading into next year. He feels that's certain. And then, yeah, at the end of the day, you don't want to be somewhere you don't feel like you are respected to the extent that you should be. And that's what I kind of gather could be the case. I think we've got to wait for more details to come out about this. I don't know whether Callum will ever speak about it or not, because at the end of the day, this is a team as well who gave him his chance in IndyCar, his chance to have that break. So, he's clearly going to have appreciation for them, but I think the way it's ended is clearly must be quite ugly, for the fact that he felt 99% sure that he was going to be returning, and then to not return. Something you would expect pretty serious must have happened, or just something must have happened to kind of trigger this.
What does the future hold, Callum Ilott? Because as you said, you look at the market, there's not really anywhere which you see as a positive step in Ilott's career left in the market. So it's tough. Maybe, well, the statement was McLaren, obviously they got the technical partnership now, had no say in the Hunkos seats. I obviously this is again speculation, but I feel McLaren signed that technical alliance maybe with an eye for Ilott in the future, maybe for an eye for nabbing talent from Hunkos. Maybe Ilott, obviously McLaren are going to be expanding in 25. Will Ilott jump ship? Maybe, but what happens next year? It just seems like it's going to have a year on the sidelines, because the announcement happened so late into the driver window that there's just nowhere for him to go.
As well, even if there was someone to go, like if you're 99% certain that you're going to be in one team, you're not really going to be looking around or like talking or having the discussions with other teams. So then, even if like he knew about it, it's just there's nowhere for him to go anywhere because he hasn't had them talks.
No.
So.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there must have been some part of the strategic alliance between McLaren and Hunkos that, you know, will have been fueled by their appreciation for Ilott, because there have been links between the two. You know, there's been interest before. Obviously, Malukas got the seat in the end, but yeah, what's the situation now? McLaren, there does seem a certain keenness to run 4 cars. Obviously, engine leases are going to become an issue. That's another thing with Rahal, if they're going to run the extra car. But yeah, I think, does he sign a pre-agreement or an agreement with McLaren just to guarantee he runs there in 25? Could they then, say, loan him out to another team, which I personally would say is flawed, just for the fact that teams do seem to be keen to wrap drivers up on multi-year deals rather than just taking a driver for a year and knowing that in a year they'll face, having to reshuffle again. Because it did always feel like, he'd maybe stay at Hunkos for another year and then 25 would be the year that he got the big move. It just, as I've said, would feel so unjust if, a year away from what feels like he would get a move that could, get him to a team challenging for wins, he instead faces a year on the sidelines. Could he occupy himself with sports cars or something? Possibly,
Ferrari link maybe still there.
Possibly, but that's just not what he
Not
wants.
what he wants, no.
No, this is a guy who's building a really, strong young IndyCar career. 20th in the first full season for Hunkos and then 16th last year. It's impressive for a team with not much backing, for a small team in the early days of their IndyCar career, and for a guy who's in the early days of his IndyCar career as well. The only thing I could possibly think of is, do Andretti run a 4th car? The thing that I think would flaw that is the issue of funding, and I'm not sure what funding Ilott really brings.
No, well, Hunkos are both, neither of their seats are funded, are they? So
no.
Yeah. It looks like a year on the sidelines. I feel like in every single series, it's just too late in the driver market, which is his issue. And maybe you could do something with Ferrari and GTs. Maybe do a bit of IMSA, keep him fresh. I think we'll probably be looking at McLaren for 25. Again, that's just speculation. It makes sense. But we just don't know. We just do not know.
Yeah, no. I think one thing I would say is I don't see him just nailing down a multi-year deal with a team like, a Foyt or a Coin, for instance. I don't see that being at all beneficial to his career.
Move, no.
No. But then nor is a year out, which is the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the other side of the equation. Hunkos have now got a seat to fill. Now, this plays into our hands from our wild prediction several months ago. And as confirmed to us last week, Ignacio Montenegro will be the next IndyCar driver. So, there's a seat there. I think our prediction's looking quite safe, to be honest.
Hola, Ignacio, if you are listening. And
Again,
if you actually understand any English. But yeah, he seems to confirm. He didn't confirm when. Maybe this is in years to come, but maybe he knows something we don't, and maybe this
Maybe he
actually is
knows.
happening.
just to confirm, we did mention Ignacio in our last post. His words, not mine. For sure, I will be next IndyCar driver. Ha ha ha.
The
He might be
ha
laughing-
throws it into a little bit of doubt.
He might be
You never
laughing it
know.
off. Maybe it's a strategical tactic by Ignacio, just to slightly askew us. Maybe to think we're going off track. But it all lines up. You know, he's dominating Argentine touring cars, just like Canapino. He's Argentinian, so he'll get the support. And there's a free seat. I mean, it's all lining up to me. He's young. He's got potential.
I mean,
Maybe he's just
There's no
one man.
flaws. There are no flaws. Do you see any flaws of it? Because personally, I don't.
if he maybe he can, exclusively announce it on the podcast if he
Yeah.
does.
Ignacio, if you
Yeah.
ever want a podcast appearance, let us know and we'll see your IndyCar future. But it's looking bright. We were laughed at when Archie predicted Ignacio Montenegro back in, what was it, July?
It would be ages ago.
A long time ago.
Sometime around then, yeah.
Sometime around then. And here we are, several months later. And it's not impossible. I mean, obviously Ignacio is the favourite, but if we're looking at other names, an outside chance. Grosjean, maybe?
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've really seen any other names connected to it. To be honest, I don't think it's anything
Francesco
particularly
is linked,
concrete.
I think.
Yeah. It's hard to tell because it's also fresh with the announcements, coming fairly recently, only in the last few days. So, yeah, I mean, it's unclear, but you would think Grosjean, but then it depends. I wonder whether McLaren have any sort of say over what the driver
Most of they
lineup would
don't,
be.
so I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I seem to think.
But you kind of look at it and is a Grosjean Canapino lineup particularly exciting?
That's not something McLaren would want, but
no, because it's two, dare I say, older heads, and Grosjean's got the raw pace, but he's inconsistent. Whilst Canapino's obviously still developing that pace, but he has proved quite consistent. But I feel like in IndyCar, almost every single team sort of has that youth enthusiasm in it. I don't know how to put it, but almost every team sort of has that youth drive within it.
yeah,
Mixed with a kind of experienced head, whilst Hunkos just won't have that. Unless it's
The
on
thing
Ignacio,
is-
of course.
the thing is, Hunkos they just can't do better than Ilott. There's just no feasible way this off season that they can do better than Callum Ilott. Grosjean finished, I think, 30 points, 3 places ahead of Ilott for an Andretti team that should be fighting for wins. And then we're talking about minnows in Hunkos, essentially. I mean, okay, maybe Grosjean's an experienced head that could help to guide the team forward, but I just don't see him guiding the team forward to the same degree Ilott is. Ilott going into his third year, starting to become a slightly more seasoned driver in the series. And
Yeah.
Grosjean, I just don't see bringing the same thing. Maybe it offers a platform like a Coin for Grosjean to really up his level again and find his feet. But
I mean, then you got
yeah.
people like Di Francesco in the mix as well. Di Francesco was linked everywhere. Then he sort of became really quiet. So I don't know. But he's been one linked because you feel like with his backing, he is going to end up somewhere in the market. And there's people like Stingray Rob as well, who we've been told has got a big budget. So they chuck in a pay driver, get the funds up because they have been struggling with funding. But then again, you've got McLaren bringing in this funding to help them. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be the most unpredictable, I think, left in the market. It's the biggest seat left in the market, in my opinion.
I feel like that one just isn't going to be unpredictable. Like you said, there's no way to kind of. I feel like people are linked up, but they're linked up like very slightly. So then it could go in any direction. It could just be someone that is not even linked up at all. It could be someone random.
Yeah. To be fair, I would say everything that remains is slightly unpredictable now.
Yeah.
I think, obviously there's a few hints here and there. I think Marshall Pruitt said something about Stingray Rob looks now likely to return to Coin, which obviously we're happy about. Friend of the pod, and we like to see rookies being given a second year, and hopefully, things can be turned around a bit on Stingray's side there because he improved, started making less errors through the season, and it was kind of the team letting him down on occasion, some long pit stops and stuff. But that I reckon that second coin seat, that's quite unpredictable. It's gone quite quiet. There's a lot of names in the mix.
Let's get on to that because
actually, it's a good segue, isn't it? Yeah, let's do that.
It's a good link into some quite a bit of news this week. Is that Enzo Fittipaldi is going to be testing it? So one Fittipaldi clearly wasn't enough, so they've chucked in another one. He will be testing with coin at Sebring in a week or two's time, which again, very left field, very very left field. But I feel like it carries on the sort of F2 trend which we've been seeing the last couple of years, and I think it'd be pretty cool.
I don't know. I didn't follow F1 this year, but wasn't he doing when I was watching it, I think he was in the middle-ish.
So yeah, Fittipaldi, I think 7th or 8th in the standings as it stands. He's 7th, so he's doing okay.
I think he got his first win, didn't he?
He won in Spa, but that's sort of the level that Lundgaard was operating at. That's sort of the level. Well, Ilott was obviously slightly higher, but that was the level Lundgaard was at. That was the level Vips were at. That was the level Armstrong was at.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Armstrong's best was 12th or 13th.
I think Armstrong, if I remember correctly, in his 3 seasons, he finished 13th in all of them.
Yeah. And I think there was something when I was doing my season review for him. He had an average either average qualifying position or finishing position in the 13s. So he seems to
unlucky number.
Attached to the 13s. I can't remember exactly what the stat was, so I'm not going to say anything with certainty, but there was definitely something with 13. But yeah, no, that's a great point. It's not always been the F2 drivers, and I think F2 is quite unrepresentative, to be honest. Marcus Armstrong's spoken in the past about the car's not great. It's not a great car to drive, and it doesn't really bring the best out of drivers,
doesn't it?
It's a bit clunky.
Yeah.
There's certain teams are a lot better than others. Obviously, that's in every series, but you have to be the right team, and there's reliability issues, and the weekend format's a bit awkward. So you don't really. The results aren't everything, and I think I was quite impressed by what Fittipaldi did last year. He was with Charouz, wasn't he? Who are not necessarily the strongest outfit, and he was pulling out some pretty strong performances. So I'd be excited to see him. I mean, 2 Fittipaldis on the grid would get confusing. Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing.
Yeah,
Fittipaldi, and which one is it? And
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is hypothetical because this is whether anything actually comes to fruition from the test or whether it is just something as sort of a preliminary thing.
I mean, people like Nico Hülkenberg have done tests, so they're not entirely representative.
I wonder whether Fittipaldi may do a third year in F2, for instance. It's a lot of drivers do a third year, and maybe this is something with a target in mind for 2025. Because I think Jacob Abel, racer, reported is also going to be doing that test, and he's back for another year in Indy next. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily point towards him actually being in contention for the seat, because obviously we've had Grosjean linked with a return. There's Rob in the picture, Frost, Di Francesco. I'm sure there's more that we're probably forgetting somewhere. So yeah, I reckon it's probably just an initial thing. See how he fares, and maybe if he blows them out the park, then maybe they do consider him. But it doesn't necessarily hint towards them making a decision on at least that second seat if Rob does indeed return to the other anytime really soon.
Yeah, I mean, there has been random testing. I'm sure, as I said, Hülkenberg's done tests before. Nick De Vries did one with Meyer Shank, I think. I feel like Stoffel Van Dorn did an IndyCar test. Yes, he did. He did an IndyCar test as well. So, doesn't always mean very much. But it's, Fittipaldi's leaving the Red Bull Junior team at the end of the year, and it seems just a bit of an interesting move. Obviously, it might not come to fruition, but something which caught my eyes, Pietro did say that they'll be racing with each other in the same series soon or something like that, and hinted on it on his Twitter or something. It might just be complete waffle. We'll see. But yeah, interesting move. Jacob Abel hasn't actually been confirmed next year, I don't think, as Abel, which is slightly interesting because everyone's expecting him to step up with his own team. But
yeah,
I don't see Abel as a realistic contender. He's obviously got backing, but I feel if he was going to step up, it would be with Abel. So
Yeah, that's what I would expect as well, to be quite honest.
yeah, Fittipaldi, we don't really know. We will see what comes of that.
It would be cool to have both Fittipaldis on the grid. They seem like really good.
They're
characters.
fun guys. Their Twitch streams
They're
are
really fun. Yeah,
Their Twitch
they're
is
really
funny.
fun. There'd be more good personalities to add to the field. I
grid.
feel.
Yeah. Who would you put in the 2 coin seats currently? Because this is the most unpredictable seat in the market, I think, alongside the Hunkos one, because coin haven't really been linked with anyone.
Have we not talked about them much?
I mean, it looked at a stage like it was going to be Frost and Di Francesco, but I don't know what's happened to Frost, because now
His name's not anywhere really.
Yeah, if Marshall Pruitt's information is correct, that Rob now looks like he'll return, then I'd welcome that. Obviously, there's a bit of bias having seen him on the podcast, but I genuinely do think he improved through the year, and I'd like to see him give him a chance. Just a bit more stability if the team can improve a little bit as well. You never know. Maybe go to the crew Lucas had. I definitely would imagine they wouldn't have a lineup of Rob and Frost. That would feel pretty weak.
Or Rob and Di Francesco.
Or Rob and Di Francesco. Similarly, I guess it depends whether they are that encouraged by some of Di Francesco's, some of his performances.
The one outstanding moment he had.
Yeah, it's Indy
and
Road
he still
Course
finished
performance.
19th or something.
But yeah, I mean, I think I would have said, if you asked me last week or a couple of weeks ago, I'd have said Grosjean as probably a contender there. But if he ends up at Hunkos, you'd say Rob.
I want Rob and Grosjean. I think we'll get Rob and Di Francesco.
I do as well. Although, I don't know, Rob and Di Francesco, I guess Di Francesco, third-year driver, they probably would see that as attractive enough for
He's got
a
the
experience
as well, doesn't he? So
I mean, it would be fun.
team.
It would be fun having Fittipaldi in.
Yeah.
But I think Rob and Di Francesco probably the most viable. I just don't see a way Di Francesco isn't on the grid unless he, maybe goes to something full time in IMSA, because I know he's actually raced with Fittipaldi for Rick Ware Racing in LMP2.
I don't think Coin really don't announce anything until about January time usually, so we might be guessing for a while. But yeah, it's the most unpredictable seat. You've got Abel, Fittipaldi, Grosjean, Rob, Di Francesco, and Frost all in the mix, and knowing Coin, they could throw something out of left field. I mean, 40 the other question mark, but I feel that Ferrucci, almost certainly will be one, and then
I feel almost certainly Peterson will be one as well, because he was on Speed Street, Conor Daly's podcast, and he was speaking a lot about next year in the context of Foyt. So I think that's how that is. I don't even know if we'll get formal confirmation of that, to be honest, because I think the only doubt there was that Peterson was possibly looking around elsewhere, but I think the Penske relationship will probably have quashed any thoughts of him moving elsewhere.
Yeah, and then obviously we got the 15, but I think we're fairly confident in that one.
That's going to happen.
One other name randomly thrown in the weekend was Theo Pourchaire, which I shared, and it was like, I'm not too sure about that one, because where on earth does he go?
Coin?
Could go, but again, I feel such a massive downgrade just going to, because it feels like you're wasting a year, with all respect to Coin, with someone like Theo Pourchaire, who realistically could be running for an F1 seat in 2025. What's a stop year going to do in IndyCar at Coin?
Yeah, I agree.
There's also rumours of him going to Super Formula. That makes a lot more sense. That's a lot more realistic. It's what Liam Lawson's done to quite good success. I can imagine the same happening. But yeah, I mean, his name was thrown around. I think it was kind of he wants to do it, but he hasn't been linked with any team or anything. So I see that one as pretty unlikely. But yeah, just another really random name which has just been chucked out there for no apparent reason.
Yeah, I have no idea about that. I know that his name was thrown about for F1 or something, but that was all I knew about his.
Yeah. It was all very random.
I think it was Theo himself that said it, was it?
Yes.
I think in an interview after his FP1 session the other day. I don't quite know where all these seats for people chasing seats are actually
Yeah,
going to come from.
I mean,
because there are-
I don't know if he's saying he wants to go to IndyCar and it's just been a bit misinterpreted.
yeah,
but
I mean, that's
it
possible.
just doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think for someone like Theo Pourchaire, who is clearly an F1 quality driver, I think he would probably be an F1 seat if there was, any even slight opening at Alfa Romeo. So, yeah, I mean, it would be super exciting if he came to IndyCar, but I'd want to see him in a competitive seat, not one that would see him kind of fighting in the mid-pack. Yeah, if he, if F1 doesn't work out for him and in the coming years there is a competitive IndyCar seat opens up for him, brilliant. Theo Pourchaire in IndyCar would be great. But
yeah. I don't want him next year.
I don't see this happening. No, I don't see this happening.
We'll see in the future. Cool. Yeah, hasn't most of the news this week has been a bit distracted by all the driver announcements going on. But we got one more sort of off-season-y vibes thing to do, which was Diff is back at it. Last week he was calling the shots at Road Atlanta in true Diff fashion. This week he's in the studio for the Rugby World Cup final. What a man.
Have we found any commentary from this? I did have a brief Twitter search.
I searched it up, so it seems like Diff was not commentating, but he was like the studio host for the Rugby World Cup final.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's just so random. If you didn't know, we've done quite a bit digging into Diff's commentary career. And we found some incredible things. I'll try and play some now if I can. But we found IndyCar Formula 1 back in the day on NBC, which is very cool. They still did the really unnecessary every time something remotely interesting happened.
It's time to bring the action. Not a great start from Hamilton. Look at Vettel. Vettel blasts through the middle of the Mercedes. Oh my goodness. Wow. Good grief. That has been a massive accident. Here we go. On the grass. Oh! God. They're both out. His teammate at the age of 18. Max Verstappen is the youngest ever to win in Formula 1.
Indeed.
They still did that. Then he's done all sorts. He said he did Bathurst. He's done NASCAR, and every NASCAR. Is it Rick Allen who does NASCAR, and everyone finds him a bit boring. And
what else has he done? He did golf, didn't he?
He did golf. But the thing about Diff on NASCAR is every time I search his name on Twitter, it's just people like, we need Diff back on NASCAR. And he did. I think it's Michigan 2017, where Larson wins it on a late restart.
Entering the Geico restart zone. Let's go. Larson's trying to split him. He's in between the two Toyotas. He bounces off Martin Truex Jr. right in front of Matt Kenseth, and he's on the low line. Kyle Larson with a blinding restart.
I think he's done Bathurst as well, MotoGP, and then as you said, golf.
Yeah, he does. Oh, he does like the supercross or something. The bikes.
Does he? Right.
The bikes that do the jumps. Don't know how to put it any more technical.
Yeah, and then he did rugby sevens at the Olympics once. He does IMSA obviously. He's done rowing at the 2016 Olympics. He's done Superbikes, World Rally Championship, MotoGP. He's done luge skeleton and bobsleigh at the Olympics.
Winter Olympics, yeah.
I found a clip of that, so we'll try and play it now.
He's through it again, 4 times cleanly through. That is the hardest part on this track. Turns 9 through 12, and Mazda has blitzed it. He's up by 0.02 of a second on Glacier. Good 15, that's what he needed in the 16. He's lost some time. He doesn't need to beat Glacier, just ahead. He goes second. And that's enough to guarantee a medal for Team USA.
But Diff on bobsleigh is honestly unbelievable. It's so good. This is the greatest thing about Diff. You don't see Crofty going and commentating on, I don't even know. But he does track and field as well, doesn't he? Just Diff. He's like the main track and field commentator in the US. And
I've also got sailing here.
Sailing? That is quite something. But yeah, he's done the rugby this week. But yeah, as I said, you don't see Crofty just randomly doing the curling at the Olympics, do you? Or see him doing the pole vault. But here's Diff, and he just does anything and everything, and he's so entertaining.
I want to see it. I want to find a clip of him on golf because, so it's also loud and excitable and on your feet. Whereas golf, commentators are classically quiet.
Yeah, you can't imagine Diff of lacking enthusiasm or motivation, can you? He's always just so. I don't know. Just listen to him. Just puts a smile on my face because it's just so. He just seems so excited in what he's commentating.
That was like me. That was like me during Petit. I went out of my way just to find Diff in the NBC commentary.
What Diff's really got to do now is put in his new main line into every sport he commentates. Like, let's say it's the bobsleigh. They're a 0.01 off. Is it possible? No, it is not. See, he's got to incorporate this in rugby. Like, if someone's about to get a try. Is it possible? And then someone tackles in. No, it is not. See, we need this sort of stuff. Diff, if you're listening and you ever do this, I don't even know. He will be claimed as the podcast GOAT. I think
he almost is already. To be fair,
he almost is already. But that would solidify him above Ignacio Montenegro, above Christian Rasmussen, above Stingray Rob. All the already existing podcast GOATs. Who does that? That's going to be quite something. But yeah, it's nice to see Diff around. Hinch was at Mexico this week, so
yeah, hosting more interviews, post-quali interviews. In fact, he hosted interviews. I don't know. We recorded after the F1 race last Sunday, didn't we? So we spoke about Hinch on his his F1.
We didn't talk about O'Ward and Hinch on the post-race show though.
Oh, we didn't. That was fun. Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. O'Ward looked like he couldn't be less bothered, but
O'Ward was having a nightmare. He'd never done anything quite like that before, and he did this classic Pato staring into space every minute when everyone else was talking.
Will Buxton's really upset because Will Buxton relied on Fittipaldi to do all of them, and now Fittipaldi's going. He's like, I've got to find a new co-host. So yeah. I don't know what this new modern trend is of IndyCar drivers just appearing on F1 all the time, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah, off season, getting our IndyCar content in.
Yeah, and what's Townend doing? All his mates are all over the shop, and he's probably in the beach somewhere in Southern California. I miss. I can't remember what season it was, but there was a year where I think it was the first year of Nashville. They got Townend on a jet ski under the Korean Veteran Memorial Bridge. This is the content we want to see.
Talking of content you want to see, if you are missing IndyCar and you want some IndyCar content from the last week, and you've listened to this podcast, I would advise listening to Off Track last week. We had one of Alex Rossi's best moments ever, where I don't want to take words from his mouth. You can listen to it, but he basically got speaking to someone on the plane who asked him about his profession, and being the humble guy that he is, he said he doesn't like, it's the thing that he doesn't like saying he's a racing driver, so he just says he does marketing. And it just so happened that this guy was going to some sort of marketing conference, I think. So he was asking Alex for loads of advice and asked him for his email, which Alex signed off with a fake surname, only to realise that the email was actually sent from Alex Rossi. So he was kind of fluffed there, but
that reminds me.
That was amusing.
That reminds me of an absolutely great story. I think it was from St. Petersburg last year, where O'Ward was going to his hotel or something, somewhere along those lines. He was walking around and he got into the elevator of someone, and this person in the elevator, I think Pato asked him, or I think the other guy asked him, "You watching the IndyCar this weekend? Are you here for the IndyCar?" The other guy in the elevator was like, yeah. I'm supporting that Aaron McLaren guy. Obviously referring to Pato, not knowing any idea that he was speaking to Pato in the elevator.
That is fantastic.
I need to find the full story. But yeah, it's just, I don't know how that happened. It's very American just to not realise who you're speaking to. But yeah.
It wasn't IndyCar, but it was F1 related. It was someone went in an elevator with a driver and basically was like, "Oh, you're here for the weekend?" And I was like, "Yeah, kind of." And then he was in the gear or something, and then she was like, "Are you like an engineer or something?" Speaking to an actual driver.
We're getting off topic here, but that reminds me of one where I think it was in Australia one year. Hamilton had crashed out qualifying or something in the F1. And he tried to walk through security, and the security guard just like blocked him off because he didn't have his paddock pass. It was like, I'm a driver! What are you doing?
Straight out of the car, going around his paddock pass in the car.
So yeah, the funny world of America. But do listen to Off Track because that's a good segment. I'll try and find the official award thing for next week. But yeah, that was rather funny. So there we are. We have actually made it to an hour. So well done, everyone. We have made it to the hour. So to be fair, this week IndyCar teams did help us out. So maybe not as many announcements, IndyCar teams. We just have one announcement a week so we can keep a strong flow going. Like we did last week, we have no idea what's going on next week, so stay tuned. There will be something. You will be informed. We have a couple of ideas planned, so I think we're good to maybe about Christmas time. We will see.
Hopefully.
Let's put it this way. This week did really help out because we had absolutely no idea until Pietro Fittipaldi came in clutch, and then Hunkos and Carpenter decided to make their own announcements. But anyway, that's what we've spoken about this episode. Next episode, who knows? Stay tuned. It's going to be fun. More fun segments. It might be another off-seasoning. We'll see. Enjoy your week, and we'll see you next time.